Hey, good afternoon. I am joined today by Alex and Andrew. Thanks for joining me, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks. This is awesome.
Hey, Jeff Embry is on right away. Hey, Jeff. Hey, Alex, why don't we start with you? Can you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Alex Cahote. I live here in Columbus, Ohio, and camp frequently. I have a 2018 Tab 320S. So thanks so much, Jen, for inviting me.
Yeah, I met Alex through the Ohio Campers, and it's been a blast getting to know Alex. He loves to cook, and he's really good at it, as I have experienced firsthand many times. And I'm looking forward to camping again and eating again with Alex. But Alex knows a lot, even though he's new. He's really dug in and learned a lot about campers. He knows a lot about tow vehicles, so he's a great person to have around, ask questions and bounce ideas off. And I've been bouncing ideas about cell phone boosters and placement for antennas and things like that. So I'm glad Alex is with us today. And Andrew's the brand ambassador for the tag, and I'm really excited that he's on with us too. Andrew, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, totally. And Alex, I didn't know you were from Columbus. I'm actually from Delaware, Ohio. So just
right down the road.
North. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I'm brand new, fresh to the camping world as well. Yeah, I'm the ambassador for New Camp for the tag model, which is so much fun. So I have a 2021 tag teardrop trailer, the Boondock edition, which is so much fun for off-roading. And like the thing that kind of got me really into camping, once we got this tag, we went, myself and my wife, on a 30-day honeymoon road trip where we lived out of our tag across the United States. So that was kind of like my learning playground.
Awesome.
Nothing like jumping right in the deep end of the pool.
That's right.
And bringing your new wife along with you. Great. So we have a couple people who've said hello in the chat. I see a few more watching. If you're watching, go ahead and let us know you're here in the chat. That would be awesome. I see we have Jeff, we have Wendy, and we have Brent. Thanks for letting us know you're here, guys. Appreciate it. So, it's interesting. I had somebody message me this morning, and I thought it was really an interesting question. He brought up, his name was Terry, and he brought up a question about a new law that's being passed in Texas. Have you guys heard about this? That they're afraid it's going to restrict overnight RV parking. I dug into it a little bit. I don't read the bill the same way that another popular YouTube channel reads it. If to me, it sounds like they're just trying to prevent people from camping on sidewalks and obstructing and interfering. They have a definition of shelter, and that's like a tent to lean to. I don't personally think that RV fits into that, but it'll be interesting to see how that evolves. Arizona's looking at something similar. So I do think it's a reality. The channel I saw jumped to the conclusion that included Walmart. Walmart's a privately owned property, so I don't know that would apply. But have you guys heard anything else? Or
very similar, Jen. And I was just going to mention the fact that some of these places are privately owned and how that law may affect them if they are privately owned, if they can still make their own rules around it, such as the Cracker Barrels and so on that you've stayed at in the past. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out. But I think I'm on the side with you, Jen, as I'm not interpreting it the same.
Yeah.
I'm in that same camp as well. It just more comes down to once we see what happens, what precedent is set. But yeah, I'm less inclined to think that it's going to involve RVs as intensely as some of the others have commented.
Yeah, and the Arizona bill actually has some provisions in it for like mental health and substance abuse counseling, and they're building spaces with electricity and bathrooms so that people have a little better hygiene in some of these homeless camps. So I think that, it's sort of a stretch to throw people who are just normal RVers in that same group. We're not usually camping on sidewalks, so
Right.
That would be a bad scene if you had to camp in a sidewalk and you had a trailer sitting right next to you. That would mean something went terribly wrong.
Yeah.
So we have some other folks who joined. We have Kim from Troy, New York. Hi, Kim. We have MK Crafts. Hi, I think it's Mary. We have somebody from Chicago, Ebalaya 80. Jennifer P. from, I know Jennifer P. Jennifer P's from beautiful Canmore, Alberta, which is just outside of Banff National Park. I met Jen when I was up there in 2019. She and her husband, Scott, are just awesome people. Patrick from Colorado. MK is from Utah. It's awesome. I love going to Utah. Andrew, did you make it to Utah when you were out there on your honeymoon?
We did, yeah. We spent 2 nights, I believe, in Utah, and we found this super small, awesome brewery, which we actually stayed at as a Harvest Host site. So that was so fun.
Oh, that's cool. Do you remember where it was?
I don't remember, and I knew you were going to ask. Let me kind of look it up as we hang out.
So we have Shay from Tennessee. Shay might be interested in finding out where that is. And then William Reed from Virginia. And Charming Voyages Travel from Arizona. Welcome. Thanks for joining us, especially you folks in Mountain Time. It's a little earlier in the afternoon than it is for us. The other thing I saw when I was doing some news searches this week was that Yellowstone has some sort of altered startup and closings for this particular season. They're in what they call phase 1, so not all their campgrounds are going to be open. And I did a quick search to see what it looked like as far as if you were trying to make a reservation at Yellowstone. And right now you could get a reservation for early spring, but June and July are very much packed out. There are a couple spots here and there, but nothing where you could stay in the same site for several days. And then August actually looks like there's still quite a few vacancies and into the fall. So if you're looking to go to Yellowstone and have some flexibility, it looks like late summer is your best bet.
We have our family. My mother is specifically tent camps through Yellowstone pretty much every year, and they book typically right around in this time frame for the end of summer. And they again have the flexibility to go whenever they pop here and there, and so that's how they have to roll, and that's what we're seeing. I will definitely continue to see that.
Yeah, it's interesting because I went to the Tetons in the last week of September last year, and I've been there 2 other years and been to Yellowstone at that time of year. It's usually an awesome time of year to go because it's fairly empty. You don't get the massive bison traffic jams, and it's just not so crazy. But last year it was more crazy than I've ever seen it. I've been in the Tetons of 4th of July and it wasn't as crazy as it was last year. Yeah. So I do think even though there are spots now where you could book, by the time that time of year rolls around, we might be in a different scenario. Maybe not. Maybe people will have to go back to school. Their kids will have to go back to school this year or back to the office. They're not doing the remote thing as much by that time of year. It'll be interesting to see how it pans out.
Yeah, Jen, I think this year when schools, if they return full bore, in the fall, I think that's going to play a big role in the September on campground reservations, especially in those high traffic areas like you mentioned.
Yeah, the city of Pittsburgh just went back to school for the first time in person in a year this past week. So, and I believe it was Akron was in the same boat, Akron, Ohio. So
many districts in Ohio are in the similar boat or haven't come back yet. So I know quite a few people. So for business, we serve the schools, and of course we want all of our students back in there.
Yeah, sure you do. Yeah, it seems like the rural schools have been more in person,
right?
And they've been able to manage the outbreaks on sort of a, as they happen type of situation. They don't have to make these massive sweeping stay-at-home type of situations just because it's easier. But the campground situation is interesting. I actually called Dave at the Uray KOA. I was there last fall, and I've been there before. It's one of my favorite KOAs. If you're going to have a KOA, like this is one of the good ones. It's in a great location, and they have a nice little restaurant, and they just do a good job keeping the sites clean and not too on top of each other, but he said they're booked for most of the early summer as well. And he said they stayed steadily busy over the winter. And this is the first time they've stayed open over the winter, but they had such high numbers in the fall. I think they thought, well, let's give it a try. And for this year, it worked. I don't know if they'll do that every year. Uray's a big ice climbing destination, so they may benefit from doing that. But it's pretty cool. Andrew, did you guys have trouble finding spots when you were on your trip?
We actually did. So we had the early part of our trip kind of go up from Ohio north, so northwest to South Dakota. And thankfully, my wife was the one that was like sat down and booked all of our different sites. And we didn't have everything booked when we left. So we kind of booked it leg by leg as we went through different states. The most difficult part was that we were coming in. So we left for our honeymoon road trip from like the middle of October and then ended in the middle of November. The most difficult part was second portion that, of course, COVID had closed a lot of different campsites down and things like that. The second other portion of that was we kind of came in toward the end of the season. So when talking about Yellowstone and Grand Teton, we camped right outside of the southeast side of Grand Teton, and there was only like one campsite available. And it wasn't the nicest, but it was just like a plot of land you could pull up and you could plug in and you were good to go. So luckily that was like the only site that my wife could find that we were able to stay, but it was totally worth it. And in terms of people being at the national park, it was awesome. Like there were no traffic jams. We got to like be front row for watching some bison cross the road. And yeah, traffic wasn't too big of an issue. So it was a great time other than the difficulty finding a spot.
Yeah. MK says she'll be in Ouray in late July. MK, do you have reservations somewhere? I like the amphitheater campground in Ouray. It's really beautiful little Forest Service campground that sits high. I want to say it's around 10,000 feet above the city of Ouray, and it's just really neat. You feel like you're in the wild there, and there's all sorts of wildlife reports at that campground.
That's cool.
Yeah.
For me.
I booked reservations for Canada this week. The Canadian parks opened up and they had a queue that you got in. And I wanted to book for Red Streak, which is where a group of Canadian tabbers are getting together in late September. So I'm hoping to be able to join them. Hopefully the border will be open by late September.
Yeah.
It's
fingers are crossed.
Yeah, I know. I feel sometimes I feel like it's deja vu where I had this trip to planned Canada last year that didn't happen, and then my fallback plan didn't happen, and then the second fallback plan didn't happen. Hopefully it's not going to be that bad. But I know I had reservations. Jennifer, who's on, she has her reservations, but I waited over 3 hours in queue to book my reservations. I was number like 26,662 in line. And I got on right away as soon as it opened, but it was just crazy. MK is staying at Hot Springs parking lot in Black Canyon. Okay. I drove just along the north rim of the Black Canyon last year for the first time. It's really pretty. There was nobody there too, so it was great. Yes, Wendy, coming up to Alberta and BC. I'm excited. Hopefully that's the plan, to hit am I saying it right? Kootenai National Park and then up to Banff and Jasper before heading back east. Last time I really hit some interesting weather, so you just never know. I had to sort of run from a couple different blizzards. One, I had to hunker down in South Dakota. I never knew the wind could blow for so many straight days.
In South Dakota, it absolutely can.
It was crazy. Brett has reservations in June, July, and August, but Ontario just canceled all provincial parks. Oh no. Oh, that's just heartbreaking. Brett, are there other places you can camp? I mean, I don't know what it looks like up in Canada if you park out or camp outside of a provincial or like a national park. I've only seen the provincial and national parks. I hope there are other places you can camp because
a minimum some private campgrounds that he would be able to go to.
Yeah, that's just so sad. I saw they also are extending the border closure till at least May for Canada. Mm-hmm. So hopefully more and more people are getting vaccinated. They'll open it up soon.
Absolutely.
So where is everybody else going this summer or this fall? Any big plans? Any travel?
Jen, I have a trip booked in September to the Adirondacks in New York, so I'll be there for about 6 days. I've never been up there, so I'll be at Lake Placid and then Lake George for split in half. So I'm very excited about that. that'll be one of my bigger this year.
As a native New Yorker, I feel like I've been a failure. I've not really been to the Adirondacks. So I drove through them once on a high school band trip, but that was it. Doesn't really count. You're too young to appreciate how beautiful it is.
Yeah. So I'm very excited for that. I try to do 1 or 2 big trips a year as being a weekend warrior. And so that will be my big trip.
You are a weekend warrior too. You do a lot of camping.
Yeah. I did 77 nights last year and work full time. So
yeah. I think if you're hitting above 60 nights and you work full time like we do, it's tough to pull off. I mean, even working remotely, it's tough to get away that many nights. And I have so much respect for the way you are committed to getting out there. You start early and go late, and much like me, I love that.
Yep. I don't mind too much cold. A little bit's okay. Andrew, do you have any big trips coming up? Sorry, Jim.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, so I actually found the little brewery that we stayed at. I did lie about. It's right on the border of Utah and Arizona. It's called the Desert Diamond Distillery. So if you ever are in the area, very cool Harvest Host location. But specifically travel types of things we have going on. We have a trip in Kentucky to do some hiking. So my wife and I are going to go spend about a week there. And then we have another week planned that we're going into Texas. So Jen and I were actually talking about this, and I've heard it's very intense and hot to camp in Texas, especially in the middle of summer, which is the plan. So we'll see how that goes. It's for more of a family wedding reception event type of deal. So we may have like an Airbnb as like a backup, but that should be fun. And then my wife and I are also actually hoping to go up to some of the northern parts of New York because that's where her grandmother is from. So my wife spent a lot of time up in that area as a kid. She kind of wants to show me around.
That's awesome. I see. Patrick says they're going to the Collegiate Pete's in Twin Lakes, which is near and dear to my heart. I spent about 3 months in that region in 2016. I love it. It's one of my favorite places to go. I was out there last fall. Where are you guys camping, Patrick? I've camped, just done a lot of boondocking in that area, but I've camped at Arrowhead, which is halfway between Twin Lakes and Buena Vista. It's a nice little RV park, commercial park. I like it because of the location. The first time I went, I was having some challenges with my Aldi, which turned out to be just needed to plug my power cord back in. But
user error.
Yeah. Or no, I'm sorry. That was something else. This was actually just the propane exhaust had wiggled loose. So Aldi was giving me an air and propane. So I had to go somewhere where I could go hook up to electric to have heat. But it's a nice little campground, and the owners are great people. I really like that. I love that whole area, though. I see somebody else mentioned where they were going. Jeff Embry says, check out Letchworth. Yeah, Letchworth is beautiful. I haven't been there. I've seen pictures for years, and it's been on my list. New York State Park campgrounds get so full, though. I don't love the crowds. I'd love to be there in the fall some year, though, because the foliage is amazing. It has big, gigantic waterfalls in the park. So, very cool. Awesome. Baby Doe is one, and Lakeview. Okay, I spent one night at Lakeview when I went in 2016. My very first night I spent at Lakeview. I think, is Baby Doe up near Leadville more? I don't remember Baby Doe, but I do know Lakeview. Jen says they're looking forward to more adventures in Banff, Kootenai, Jasper, and British Columbia. A couple even with you, yes. So in addition to the camping with the whole group, Jennifer and I both have the same nights booked. There's overlap at Banff, so I'm excited about that.
I think I'm just going to trail right along behind you, Jen, on your way there.
You can. I'll buy the food and you can cook.
There you go.
Nice.
Nina might decide to come if you came, Alex.
Yeah, Nina and I can whip up and be the camp chefs.
Nina's actually going to travel with her sister and brother-in-law in August, so she's not going to join me this year. They are going out. They're going to start at Mount Rushmore and hit some of the areas out, I think, in Wyoming and Montana. So, yeah. Her brother-in-law retired recently, so this has been in the plans to do this trip since, before he retired. They're looking forward to it.
Awesome.
Very cool. So, I saw.
Fun.
Yeah, I've only seen Mount Rushmore from Custer State Park. There's a
Oh yeah,
there's
been
a
there.
tunnel that frames it, and we went up there. We didn't have a ton of time, and I thought, well, we can do Custer and see Mount Rushmore from Custer. Let's just do Custer,
Yeah.
Growing,
And
we went, being from Nebraska, we would go there. That was almost every year we would camp near there at a place called Rafter J's, and it's actually still a campground there. And one of our camping people was there last year and said it was amazing. So I think it's still a really prime spot to be if you're going to that area.
oh, that's a good tip.
Really cool. Absolutely.
I do want to check out Mount Rushmore itself because I've heard the whole flag lowering ceremony that they do is really just a neat experience.
The lights they do as well. If you get to one of their light shows, it's unreal.
Yeah.
Really, really
so
cool.
I am looking forward to doing that at some point. I'll be interested to see, like, last year I think Mount Rushmore was sort of at, I don't want to say full capacity, but I don't think they restricted a lot. Yeah, I think that was just normal. They didn't do a lot of restrictions. I know Yellowstone, some of the campgrounds are open, and the same with Glacier. They just don't have the staff.
Yes.
I know a lot of these parks rely on international guests or international staff to help keep things up and running, and they just can't get them in the country.
Interesting, Jen, you say that. I was just at Hocking Hills State Park here in Ohio this weekend, and as you drive in, there were multiple signs saying now hiring for the state park there. For staff. So, which is unusual. I haven't seen that in previous years at the state park. So I think that's something probably common across the U.S., specifically for the state parks right now.
Yeah, and you probably have some folks not doing it just because they're nervous about COVID, right? Who would normally take those jobs.
Yeah, we camped actually in the winter at Hocking Hills, just as some like winter hiking around the area, and they already had some signs and different things posted about trying to hire people for the upcoming season. So yeah, they've been trying hard for a little while.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Well, that's crazy. Yeah, they're in addition to the campground closings in Glacier, they're actually, one of the roads is going to be more or less restricted and then closed for construction, and then they're closing St. Mary, which is one of the bigger campgrounds in Glacier. So it'll be interesting to see what people do. I stayed at a campground in West Glacier that was a private campground. It was really nice. It was called Glacier Campground, but it was empty because it was October and there was a blizzard on the way, and they just sort of laughed at us for camping there. But it turns out we didn't really get any more than a dusting of snow there. It wasn't a big deal at all. Jennifer, I know that you've got the reservations in Canada. I'm curious, is Banff in a similar position with international help to help with not only the parks, but the restaurants and things like that? I know when we were in Banff and ate out a couple times, our wait staff was always from another country. They weren't Canadian. So I would imagine they're in a similar position, just from businesses and their parks.
Would you mind if I asked a quick question?
Yeah.
So I'm still kind of fresh in terms of different campgrounds and understanding the whole process and all that kind of stuff. And I've been in some of the different Facebook groups for the tab and the tag and all of that, which has been super helpful. I've seen a lot of mixed reviews on KOA camping. So is there like a different stigma with camping KOAs because it's more of like a franchise, bigger business type of situation compared to private?
It's funny you say that. I think it was last year, or maybe it was 2019. I wrote a blog post, something like, it's okay to stay at a KOA.
I think I saw that.
Because there is such a stigma. And well, there are 3 types of KOAs, which I didn't know until like 2 years ago. I finally was like, this one says journey, this one says holiday, and then the third is resort, I think is their category. So journey means it's going to be along an interstate, and it's the glorified parking lot, if you're honest, with electric hookups and sometimes water and sewer. And I've stayed at some of those. Stayed at one in Grand Isle, Nebraska, one outside of Des Moines, and they were not like, the one in Grand Isle is a lot nicer than the one outside of West Des Moines. The one in Grand Isle is actually borders right up to a farm, and is not far from the interstate, sort of nice. The one in West Des Moines, I stayed there twice, and both times I'm like, I don't know why I'm staying here. I'll tell you why I stayed there, because it was hot and humid enough that I wanted air conditioning. That's the reason you stay at somewhere like that. You need to do laundry. there can be whatever you need hookups, and it's convenient. The Journeys I've stayed at for the first time this year, and or I'm sorry, the holidays. They're a little nicer. They have some amenities. I can't tell you how many different KOAs I stayed at last year, like more than I ever have in my life. I stayed at one near Carbondale, Colorado, right along the Crystal River, and it was beautiful. They had nice patios, and the sites were more spaced out. They even had some riverside sites. And then the one in Ouray might be a holiday. I can't remember. But we stayed in one in West Denver, which was a really nice one. And we sprung for a premium site. It had a deck with Adirondack chairs, and it had a swing and like a porch swing type of swing. Nice. And beautiful paved site. Yeah. And we had sort of a valley view from there. It was really nice. But the KOAs, there are the purists who would say that's not camping because you have all the amenities. But There are times you need the amenities. You need to catch up on your laundry. If you're on a 3-week trip or 30-day trip like you were, Andrew, you need to do your laundry. Sometimes you need Wi-Fi. You run out of data, or we wanted to watch one of the presidential debates, so that's why we went to the West Denver KOA. We wanted Wi-Fi because we didn't want to stream from data, and we wanted to be sure we could actually stream. So I'm one of those people who does the full range of campgrounds, everything from boondocking to the occasional KOA. But Jennifer says they aren't her thing for a 2-week holiday, but a place to sleep after endless hours on the road is certainly a welcome sight. Yes, I couldn't have put it better. That's exactly right. Like when you're driving all day, you just want a place you can pull in, plug in, grab some dinner.
Do you have a preference of staying at state parks or at private campgrounds or BLM land? Personally,
my absolute favorites would be, if I'm not boondocking is my absolute favorite. Mm-hmm. Nina doesn't love boondocking as much, so when she's with me, I don't tend to do it. Okay. But I love the Forest Service campgrounds and also the BLM campgrounds. They typically, they're going to vary. There's one in Colorado I go to that has electric. I sometimes will camp there. Sometimes I'll camp at the one up the road. That's in Almont, Colorado. But they tend to be more private in their sites than state. Colorado has some of the nicest state parks you'll find anywhere, but it's a bit more, some of their sites can be a bit more like an RV park than a true campground. Now, the one Andrew and I camped at a couple weekends ago, Nimisila, was actually beautiful. It had been a state park. They turned it over to Summit County to be a metro park because they didn't have the funds to maintain it. Mm-hmm. And it's my favorite park now, I think, on the East Coast.
That's awesome. It was really, really beautiful. I know I definitely a state park or anywhere where I can find a very private campsite. And so a lot of times I'm booking 6 months out because I know where the state parks in Ohio, this specific spot is on its own.
Nice.
Oh, Nathan has it. The KOA is A-OK.
I like it.
Yep. And then Janet Brady said, I just read in the paper today that Yosemite, Rocky Mountain, and Glacier are limiting the number of visitors. Yes, they've gone to this reservation system, and I don't know as much about Glacier and Yosemite and Rocky. Glacier worked with businesses in the community to try to figure out what the right solution was. They were sort of back and forth, and they decided the reservation system was a little better. So if you're going to those parks, you do have to have a reservation. I think the reservation is for your entrance. It's not like you're kicked out after you're there for a certain amount of time. It's just so that they don't end up with massive lines at the gates.
Yeah.
Patrick says, we went to Billings, Montana to pick up our 320 last December. Stayed at a KOA in Wyoming on the way back. It was fine for an overnight stay to get back. Yep. That's perfect.
Yeah, KOA is actually probably a really great place for one of those first trips with your new trailer to have like that. In my opinion, you have all those amenities, some cell phone service or Wi-Fi service to be able to Google search things of how to. That's definitely a good call on there too, I think.
Alex, you really like the state parks, don't you?
I do, yeah, because I definitely like to have the electrical hookup at minimum. I like my air conditioning at night, but I also find, like I mentioned, find a lot of different spaces where you do get a decent amount of privacy, and then there's always hiking and so on there as well. So there's some, multiple use there.
Yeah. This has been a great spring here in Pennsylvania and Ohio for camping if you don't like hot weather, because it hasn't been terrible. And I was just commenting today, I don't think we've had snow in Pittsburgh, like true accumulation, since February. So the camping season sort of started early and has had a nice start to it, because it's not, I mean, there have been years where I'm running the air conditioning by mid-April.
There is a chance of snow here on Wednesday night, I believe. It's going to get down to 30 degrees. Yeah.
I know that.
Yes.
Oh, no.
I'm going to have to check the weather out. I haven't looked real closely. May have to come turn the Aldi on that night. I don't want to re-winterize.
Really?
Nathan says the history behind the KOA is that they initially designed as stopovers. For the Seattle World Fair. That's interesting.
That's cool.
And that explains why they're along interstates.
Yeah. And Amy mentioned she's getting a new trailer in a few weeks. Congratulations. We're running about first view overnight. So like I mentioned, I think KOA, Jen, and Andrew might be a really, really great first stop.
Yeah. So our kind of first, our first experience actually kind of with that too. We started off, once we got the tag, we did a couple nights of driveway camping just to get the vibe, experience it, see what it was like. And then we actually went to a local private campsite that was maybe 20 minutes from where we live, so we could kind of get the experience, but still be close to home if we needed to go get something or just have as a backup.
Yeah, that's smart. You hear a lot of times people driveway camp before they go to a campground, and that's not a bad idea either.
Yeah, it was great.
No, go ahead.
I would say Patrick said they didn't even unhitch because we were such newbies. Patrick, let me let you in on a secret. If I'm just staying overnight and leaving the next day, I don't unhitch either, unless it's on a super slope and I have to level. But I try to stay connected. Why do the extra work for one night?
I'm not gonna lie. I think for our entire honeymoon, we didn't unhitch once. Like even when we went hiking to go to like some trailhead, we still took the camper with us and just parked, hiked, came back, drove, parked. We're good to go.
That's awesome. Nathan says the guy who came up with the idea was thinking along the lines of a Holiday Inn for campers. Yeah. I think there's actually that's an opportunity. I don't know long-term wise what the opportunity is like, but there with the surge in RV sales, there is an opportunity for more private campgrounds. And I think there's a desire for campgrounds that aren't so much your parking lot style campgrounds, something between a resort and between your highway KOA that gives some larger private sites. I guess sort of like state parks, I
think, Jen, I was reading one interesting thing on that is when building a new site, it costs approximately $25,000 per site within a camper or a campsite to build. So with the pavement, the electrical and everything ran to that specific site. So it's very expensive and costly depending on your area. So maybe that is something that's holding the industry back. But I really, like you mentioned, hope that it picks up, or they find, it of course depends on the area, how much it's going to cost. But
yeah, and you don't have to pave. I mean, I could think of, I stayed at a KOA in Elkhart on my way back last year. Yeah. And I don't think the little loops were paved, and I don't think the sites were paved. Yeah. So if you have good gravel like Timbercrest in Walnut Creek, Ohio, they're not paved. And I think they were putting in more campsites, weren't they?
They were adding many, yes.
Yeah. Jennifer says they play camping in Earl out front prior to takeoff and go. Yeah, they have a long winter up in Canmore, so they do a lot of practice camping at home.
And then Shay just bought a new Jeep Grand Cherokee.
Oh, nice.
Perfect. And Shay, I also have a Jeep Grand Cherokee alongside Jen, and I love it. So it's a great tow.
I have a Jeep Cherokee Trailhawk. That's a nice
there you go.
Yeah. The Jeeps are great to tow with. They are comfortable and get decent mileage and are strong enough where you're not crawling up mountains passes in the far right lane.
Semi trucks passing you.
Yeah, that was my experience with my Wrangler.
Yeah, absolutely.
I remember going up Monarch Pass in Colorado thinking, this is crazy. If you're coming from the east up Monarch Pass, it seems to go straight up, and poor Wrangler just wasn't cut out for it.
Sarah,
Sarah
go ahead.
she says they plan to get a 400, but are now thinking about a 320 instead. They live in Colorado and felt we would want a full-size truck with a 400. Yeah. And now thinking, yeah, I think you're thinking about that the right way. I wouldn't want to tow a 400 with my Grand Cherokee, especially if I lived in Colorado.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to tow it here. And Sarah, I considered getting one with my Grand Cherokee and shied away with it just because I felt that it would be underpowered, and especially in the mountains out in Colorado. So one with the V8 would be an option, or moving to a full-size pickup. Absolutely.
Yeah. Hey, William, I just saw a 400. It was used. It was, I think, a 2019 at Miller's RV in Percy, Pennsylvania. Miller's is a fantastic dealer. They are smaller, so that might not be a bad place to look to see if they still have that one. Kim says she's shopping for a tow vehicle now that I can, so she can get a 320. Honda Fit probably wouldn't cut it. No,
Yeah.
I'm not sure your Honda Fit would even tow a tag. Maybe, maybe not.
Kim, keep searching, and I guess my biggest advice for that is, go overboard with the towing capacity on something along the lines with that. So say for a 320, in my opinion, this is my true opinion, is 5,000 pounds minimum for a 320 capacity. And that's just my personal opinion. So for safety and comfort of towing, but
on paper, I think 3,500 would be about the minimum, because you would be hard to find one that'll tow the right tongue weight that has less than a 3,500 pound capacity. But I'm with you, Alex. I sort of go with I think you want to be in the like 40 to 60% above the tow capacity, or be above the trailer weight category.
What I love about it is I can set my cruise or roll down the interstate at a comfortable speed, and my car's not stressing out. I'm not stressed out about it. And that's such a big part of your trip, of just getting there, and why be stressed out during that because of what you're towing.
Yeah. Now, I think there are some that probably at 3,500 are pretty good, but you're really going to have to hunt. I'm much happier, I will say. I think my Grand Cherokee is a 6,200 pound tow capacity. Yeah. So it handles the 320 really easily. Mm-hmm. Nathan says bigger is always better. Nathan's had he started out with a smaller tow vehicle.
Yeah, I think, Nathan, did you have a Ford Escape?
I was going to say an Escape. Is that the one where the hitch fell off?
Yeah, exactly. So Nathan's a firm believer, camped with him, and getting something a little bit larger to be more comfortable and safer. So absolutely.
Sarah ordered in January. It's built, waiting for delivery. Oh, that's pretty good, because I know I was hearing people ordering and saying that it might not be delivered before the end of the year. So, who had just ordered recently, that's a long wait. Mm-hmm. Amy says her car has a 5,000 in theory capacity. You think I will be okay with my 320S? I would certainly try it. 5,000 sounds pretty reasonable.
Yep.
Like you can tow with a 3,500, and some are better than others. I towed my Wrangler cross country, that whole first year. So it's not like it can't. It's just you can have a better experience.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Nathan says at 3,500, you're definitely going to want a factory installed tow package. I agree with that. Right. I think if you can get a factory installed tow package, it's a huge difference. I did not have a factory installed tow package. I added a transmission cooler and had the hitch installed. And even with the transmission cooler, it overheated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Amy, you mentioned a Subaru Ascent. I think that'll be a great tow vehicle for a 320. And Jen, one other thing I kind of brought up a little bit earlier when I was messaging you is there's a lot of questions about brake controllers, and thoughts on if you need one or not. Jen, do you want to kick that off, or is that something you want to talk about?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you brought that up. With the tabs, they all come with electronic brakes. And so in most states, you're required by law of above 2,000 pounds to have a brake controller. So if you want to be in compliance with the law, you should go ahead and get a brake controller. I wouldn't tow a tab without one. Andrew, does a tag come with electric brakes?
They do, but I think they started adding them for every single tag in 2020. But previously, before that, it was only the Boondock package that had it with it.
Did you get a brake controller for your Jeep?
I don't have one right now. I'm thinking if I do upgrade to maybe like a Tab 320 or Tab 400 at some point, yeah, absolutely have to go that route.
How much does the tag weigh? Is that like 1,300 pounds?
Yeah, it's right about that.
Fair enough. Yeah. And I definitely think, what's nice is a lot of times when you have that 7-pin connector on that factory package, a lot of times it's just a plug and play, very simple addition to your vehicle. So for such a little thing to add, it definitely adds a lot of safety and peace of mind, and wear and tear in your car. Your rotors are definitely going to thank you for it.
Yeah, I mean, I think with the Jeeps, it's usually right under the driver's side, the plastic panel there where your knees would hit, and you just literally plug it into the harness that's right there. It was really easy to install. It was.
Jen, did you install yours yourself?
Yeah, you just plug it in and then
nice.
Yeah, I did
a couple holes for the bracket.
Okay, cool. Wow, that's even easier than I thought it would be. That's cool. That's good to know.
Yeah, I think I had to maybe pull down a little bit of the trim, and then it was right behind there, and it popped right in. And
nice.
It's cool. It's pretty simple. And most vehicles with that factory 7-pin connector, it usually is wired for a brake controller if there isn't one.
Cool.
What brake controllers do you like? I've been using a Prodigy 2, I think, which isn't their newest. The Prodigy 3 is newer. It seems a little nicer. What do you use, Alex?
Mine is, I can't even pronounce the name of it. It was a cheap $80-$90 controller that I got online, and it works great. So I didn't, put up the money for a really nice one, but what I have, I mean, it does everything I need it to. So
I don't think you need a lot of features on a brake controller. I mean, these aren't rocket science. You just need to be able to set it. Honestly, I see a lot of people starting to get the wireless brake controllers. I'm not even sure what the advantage of that is. To be honest,
isn't wiring in your vehicle already.
I'm sorry?
Okay.
If there's no wiring in your vehicle already, they have just the hitch installed, that might be a money saver as far as running those wires, Jim, but otherwise I'm not sure.
Yeah, TLB uses the 3. I mean, I've thought about, the Jeep dealer said it would be $600. Oh, Sarah, you just go to YouTube and search the brake installer, because it should not cost $600. If there's a factory tow package, it should not cost $600. You should be able to get a controller for $150 or less, and just literally peel the trim away, plug it in, and then install it. Yeah, you can do this. Trust me.
I did it myself in 10 minutes max.
Yeah.
So
man,
it's very
Patrick says, I installed a Kurt dash-mounted brake controller, drilled holes and all. I plugged it in the factory harness and had clean factory appearance. Yeah, you can really, it's not hard to have it look nice. I will say the one that I find really appealing is made by Redarc. I'm sure I'm not saying that correctly, but it has a dial and it looks extremely OEM, And then I think, is it Ford trucks? The new is the 150 that has the advanced trailering.
Ford's brought that in. I believe Chevy and GM also have a similar system set up in theirs as well, and on their higher end vehicles that they're doing anyway right now. I think we're going to see in the automotive industry, as towing and trailering becomes more popular, I think that's going to be more of an option, more available option, and more standard across different lineups of vehicles. And I can see that in the near future happening.
Wendy got the Primus IQ, and so did Brent. I'm not familiar with that one. Mm-hmm. I've actually never heard anybody complain about their brake controller. I mean, I think they're all, I'm not sure that there are huge advantages from one model to the other. For the size of trailers we're towing, that probably is the caveat. Maybe if we had fifth wheels, it would be a different scenario.
But, just over 2,000 pounds. The cheap one I bought works perfect.
Let's be honest, we barely need one. I mean, so we're not going to notice it. It's a huge thing. I am glad I have it though when I'm going down mountains, if I need to stop abruptly. Although that's something a lot of people don't realize. When you're going down a mountain, the last thing you want to do is ride your brake down. Mm-hmm. You want to let the engine do the braking. You hear every year about somebody doing that and burning up their brand new brakes right away, whether it be their vehicle or their trailer, and that's bad.
For sure.
It's you see, I mean, if you've ever been on Trail Ridge Road in Rocky Mountain National Park, you always can smell someone's brakes.
Absolutely. When you're going up, it feels steep and it looks steep, but you really know it when you're coming down those mountain passes.
Add-on mirrors. I used add-on mirrors with my Wrangler, but I have not felt the need to have them with my Grand Cherokee.
I haven't either, Jen. I mean, every once in a while, I would like to be able to see around especially when I'm backing up. It would be a little bit nice, but otherwise, I haven't. It's really about the same width as my Grand Cherokee.
What about you, Andrew? Do you need anything for mirrors for the tag?
Yeah, nothing at all. It's perfect. Yeah, it's easy enough to use both the side mirrors. And when I'm backing up, I either do like the arm over the back seat looking around, and that usually kind of gets me so I can like look out the windows on either side that way. It's easy enough.
Can you see over the back of the top of the tab out of your rear view mirror?
You can't, unfortunately.
Yeah, I didn't know if it came up just high enough to obstruct your view. Or...
It's right close by it, so I can see some of the solar panels on the top.
Nathan says a couple years ago Ford introduced a backup assist. Yeah, they've started advertising that, I've noticed.
Yeah, it's very heavily advertised right now.
It'll learn your trailer and know what trailer you're actually telling. So if you tow multiple trailers, they're different sizes, it knows what you were telling and will adjust the brake controller accordingly.
That's cool.
That's impressive.
And I believe it even has a feature too for the blind spot monitoring to work with in conjunction with trailers, which I know a lot of trailers now are coming with blind spot monitoring kind of as an addition to integrate with those trucks.
I don't know if mine has that integrated for trailer, but it sure seems like it works. Like,
I think that's just because the Jeeps are so lagging in it when they go by. I don't know.
Yeah, that could be. Does anyone use backup cameras on their trailer? I do not. Do you guys? I don't think you do. Either of you do you?
No, I don't. I know a few people that do that we camp with, Jen, and they really like it. I think it's when they have their larger trailers, but I haven't really found a need. I a lot of times you'll see me get out and look several times.
Yeah. It's interesting. The better I get at backing up, the more I start to think, I think a backup camera actually could be more distracting than helpful to me, because the really important thing is to make sure there's nothing you're going to hit in the spot. Nobody's moved the picnic table, for example, where you want to put the trailer. But other than that, it's the most important thing is to see where the wheels on the trailer are going. Those tires are going to be what you need to adjust. So a lot of people like the backup cameras because, anybody, a kid could run behind you. You couldn't see it. So there is some safety features, but I haven't had one installed yet. Maybe someday.
Jen, yeah, I kind of have the same mindset too. Even with the backup camera that's on the Jeep, like when I'm not towing anything and I'm backing up, I don't even really reference that a ton. It's more so like what you said, if I'm just going to look real quick to glance to see if there's something back there. But other than that, I don't really use that the whole time that I'm backing up. So yeah, I don't think I would use it for a camper of the size that we have. It's not really super, super beneficial.
Yeah, I agree. Robert says he appreciated video on surge protector and EMS. Oh yeah, did you have a surge protector, Alex? I can't.
I do. I have an external one that plugs into my cord.
What about you? Did you get one, Andrew? Anything to protect you?
I don't. So I've actually been looking into that recently. So yeah, what are your kind of guidance on that front, if you don't mind?
An EMS. So there are surge protectors that just protect you from a surge, and then there's an EMS which gives you a more extensive protection. In short,
okay.
It protects you from things like RV hot skin, which is a real problem if the ground is wet in your RV. I think it loses ground, and
that's what it is. Yeah,
and the skin of the trailer gives you a shock. Now, if the ground is wet and you get a shock, you could die potentially.
Sure.
Somebody just rare. Yeah, it is very rare, but it can. Patrick Wilson and I talked about that at the last U Camp. He did not have an EMS, and his trailer was sitting in basically a small pond. And I think he has since got one since he's learned about them, because he's like, holy cow, that could have been bad for me, And somebody just posted one of the tab groups that they plugged in at a campground, and the campground pedestal burnt up their surge protector. Mm-hmm. I don't think it was a progressive, but the surge protector at least did its job and protected the trailer.
That's my biggest worries, Jen, when I go to these campgrounds and the pole is kind of wobbly and hanging there, and like I don't know about this, so I shut everything off and plug my surge protector. And please do your job and kick it back on, and all the lights turn green, so it's good.
Well, and mine saved me from my brother had an electrician install a 30 amp connection at his house, and they connected, what was it, a 220 volt instead of a 125 volt, and that would have been toast. Somebody talked about how they did plug, their electrician did the same thing. This is evidently a common mistake electricians made. So if you have an electrician who installs a 30 amp, it will actually tell you the voltage on it. It's really hard to read, but look at the face. And it's a common mistake, but the progressive just turns everything off, so there's no damage. I've been saved so many times at a campground.
So I have another rookie question real quick associated with that. So I know surge protectors, like non-camping related ones, you plug them into the wall and then it's like another extra outlet. So where do you plug in a surge protector or an EMS for your camper?
So there are two ways you can do it. Alex has the portable one, and you would plug it in, correct me if I'm wrong, Alex, but right at the pedestal.
Right.
And then your 30 amp cord into the other end of the.
Yes. It's about the size of your arm, basically. And it goes into the pedestal, and the other end goes right on your cord.
And then I had mine permanently installed, so I don't ever have to connect it. It's just always there.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, cool. It's installed under my driver's side bench.
Oh, Patrick, nice. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, so it's out of sight, out of mind. Patrick asked about sway bars. Now, I'll speak for a 320, and I'll let Alex or Andrew talk about a tag. I'll be interested in your thoughts too, Alex.
Yeah.
I think I've driven literally tens of thousands of miles with my tab and never wished I had a sway bar. It's just, I don't think it's necessary if you have the right tow vehicle. Now, maybe if you have an undersized tow vehicle, you may want to consider one, but I think it makes more sense to consider a different tow vehicle, honestly, than sway bars. That being said, my Grand Cherokee has some sway control built in. But even when I had my Wrangler, I never wished I had a sway bar. So dealers do try to push it. And I've heard other people, especially if they come from a bigger camper, insist it was necessary. I've never felt like it was necessary.
Yeah, Jen, I'll speak quickly to that and listen to Andrew. I actually have one on my 320, and it's the only reason I do is because I had a larger trailer before my 320 that I had it. And I thought, oh my gosh, I have this expensive piece of equipment. I might as well put it on there. And they put it on there for free for me. So I do have it. Is it necessary? Absolutely not, especially with my tow vehicle that I have. But I do have it. I maybe can tell a small difference on a really windy day and the semi trucks are blowing by you, but really it's not necessary. Andrew, tag.
Yeah, tags are so light. You can barely even tell you're pulling one anyway. So yeah, I would never say you would need a sway bar. And I will say, like, I've driven from 10 miles an hour to like around 100 miles an hour driving through Nebraska and some of those like windier states too. I've had no issues whatsoever.
Yeah.
No. I will say there's one pass in Colorado, and it's Patrick, it's when you're coming east on 70, and it's right before you get into Dillon. There's one spot that I know that it's something about the aerodynamics of that stretch of road. The rear end will want to sway a little bit, so I will actually slow down going into that area. But it's literally the only place I've ever experienced it, and it's almost every time I go through there, it's the same thing. So I think
you're talking where the Eisenhower Tunnel is, Jen, right?
No, it's past the tunnel.
Okay.
It's a little closer to the Front Range.
Okay.
It's between Leadville and the Big Dillon Reservoir, Frisco. So it's between there. But you're coming down, and there's just something about it, and I don't know what it is. Yeah, is it Vail Pass? It might be Vail Pass, but I think Vail's further west. So I think this is, I don't know what it is through there, but that's the one spot. I'm seeing a lot of people say they don't use it. I think the 400. I don't even know that people with the 400 all get sway bars. I mean, I think Steve and Karen they have an F-150. I don't think they have
No, you should have a big enough tow vehicle with a 400 still where it's not true necessary, in my opinion. Like I say, I have one and people make fun of me all the time for having one, and it's not necessary at all. But I already had it, so I thought, why not?
Yeah. There was a question about comfortable sleep. I use a Thermarest.
That's a good question, Jen, because I was actually just thinking about what am I going to do, because the memory foam that I have on my in my tab is shot, so I need to upgrade that after this last weekend. My shoulders hurt.
Yeah, I see a lot of people going with Mattress Insider out of Colorado. They're very happy with their mattress topper they just get.
Yeah.
I know that Jen in Canmore just got a mattress topper, and I think they said they got a 3.5 inch. I bet that's comfortable.
Yeah.
3.5 inch foam.
Yeah, we kind of use something similar. So we just slap down this like foam that we had. It's maybe like 2 inches, and then we layer it on top of like another 1.5 mattress topper. So yeah, it's very nice. And since we have a tag, our bed is just up all the time, so it makes it nice and easy just to kind of deck it out.
I think I would love to have something when Nina's with me, because we leave the bed made full time when she travels with me. So that would be nice. But sleeping side to side, I'm not sure. I go back and forth. There's part of me that thinks maybe I would be more comfortable. I'm always adjusting the air in my Thermarest. Sometimes if I get it too full and it's too firm and have to let a little air out. But do you hit your head on the overhead cabinets in the rear of the tab? I would if I stuck my head underneath it.
I hit mine all the time. And the new tabs is really great because, and Jen, yours has this. They changed the cabinets in the back a little bit, but I also got rid of the knobs that are on the front, and that's my problem. Is I nail my head on those little knobs that stick out for the cabinets.
Yeah, they have the soft close latch that you just pop open, and super nice. TLBE says that the sway bar was required for Tacoma with a 6,500 tow rating. Yeah, I think that's another piece of advice. It's really important to read your owner's manual and see what your manufacturer recommends, because some will actually say don't use a sway bar. I have some built-in sway control, so I wouldn't even think about it.
And there might be, and I might be talking out the wind, but in certain states it might be required for depending on how big your trailer is. Well.
Yeah. How thick a Thermarest do you use? We have a couple. I don't know how thick it is because I've had it for so many years. I can't find the model. It whatever it was at the time was the deluxe Thermarest. Like, it has a foam pad and then it has the layer of the self-inflating air. It was never meant for lightweight backpacking. It was always meant for car camping, so it's probably a little thicker. And there probably are more comfortable ones out there now. I've had this for several years. Jen said they haven't hit their heads yet on their 320, which is a 2019. I used to sleep on my old tab. I'd sleep sometimes with my head almost underneath it. And as long as I stayed half out and half under, I wouldn't hit it. I couldn't even sleep with my head under this. I don't know if it would fit. I got a big head, but the cabinets come down further, so you don't have as much room. The cabinet, people don't realize they went from 3 cabinets to 2, but they're actually a little larger in the 2021 model.
Yeah, I think they made it so there's a lot more usable space for you.
Yeah. Sometimes I'm like, I have so much storage room. Like, people.
That's what I say too.
Yeah,
you can only say that if you own a 320. I mean,
I see that now that I have the big boxes on the front, and that's great.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to emptying that front box. I still have the AGM batteries. A friend's going to buy those from me, and as soon as she takes them, I'll have more space to put stuff up front. I love moving the batteries under the seat here. Does anyone put their feet under them? You could put your feet under the cabinets. I don't like the idea of my head being right by the door. I think I've heard a lot of other people say that too. When I'm alone, I sleep wheel to wheel. I like that a lot. And then when Nina's with me, we slept our heads by the cabinets, but we scooched to the end. And I'm almost too tall. My feet sort of would hang off if I slept straight. so I'd sleep a little bit crooked. Because I mean, it's such a huge bed; you can easily do that. And she's about 4'11", so she doesn't take up much space. Nathan would sacrifice the back cabinets for a stargazer in a heartbeat. Yeah, Nathan, I know.
Stargazer's where it's at. I'll tell you what. Oh my gosh, just laying in a tag and looking up and just like watching the snowfall or the stars, the trees. Oh my gosh, yeah, it's a dream.
I would never sleep if I could lay in bed and watch the snowfall above me.
Yes,
I would stay awake
it's risky.
all night. I would be so mesmerized.
It's cool. Awesome.
Well, hey, it's 5 o'clock. That sure went fast.
It did.
Thanks, Alex. Thanks, Andrew, for joining. I really appreciate it. It was fun having you guys on. Thanks to everybody who joined and participated in the chat. This was a blast. You'll have to let me know if you think I should do this again. I'm sort of questioning whether people will want to do this during camping season, or whether you think there are enough new people that would benefit if we went ahead and I kept going next month. So anyway, I appreciate everybody being here because it's no fun without you. So
thank you so much.
thanks a lot.
Yeah,
All right.
thanks, guys.
Have a great day, everybody.